the start of the season. This is a sneaky, enormous story in the NFL. Here's Ben Johnson.
It's a hot spot for us. Obviously, we talk about it almost every time I'm up here, and yet I don't know that we are 100% sold on who that guy's going to be for Carolina yet. We're going to still work through it. That's where today's going to be huge for us. Thursday's going to be huge for us, and Saturday's going to be huge for us as well.
This is not a good place to be if you are the Bears. And if you've been watching the show over the summer, I know, everyone's schedule is a little different sometimes. I want to be super high on the Bears because I love the combination of Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. But everything about the defense, including the significant injury to Kobe Bryant, their big acquisition, and now they got problems on both sides of their offensive line. This is a little bit of nervous time for these Bears.
Yes, if there's a sliver of hope to be, Ozzie Trapillo, who's a very capable guy who tore a patella tendon, was taken off of PUP, so hopefully he'll be ready to go sooner rather than later, because they certainly could have kept him on there for the first 4 games. So without question, this is a massive concern. I do think Ben Johnson, when you talk to people about defending Sean McVay when they don't have a great line, he could kind of cover up for it. I think Ben Johnson has that ability to be a quick game, certainly slide protection, but going into the season with a franchise quarterback, left tackle is not the question you want to have.
The most popular phrase I hear around the Bears sometimes from people like you, Clarky, and I don't mean that accusingly, is candidate for regression. All right?
Yeah.
Do you believe the Bears are on that list?
I'm not on the Bill Barnwell ready to put them in the bottom 5 regression candidates. Ben Johnson mentioned it recently that everybody's talking about them being regressive. But to me, offensive line was the biggest part of the story last year. You had a guy like Drew Dahlman at center, instantly changed that line. He retired. We've got the injuries up front. Caleb Williams still holds on to the ball for far too long. In fact, it was some of the longest time to pass in the history of football last year. He's going to keep doing it. That's his game. You mentioned quick game. He doesn't like doing quick game. He likes being able to see everything come there. So I think you got to have the offensive line settled. And if not, yeah, they're going to regress.
Yeah, you know what? I think that Caleb is going to evolve, though. I do believe that playing within structure, playing on time in rhythm, that's been a big point of emphasis when it comes to Ben Johnson and the way in which he has communicated this to Caleb. And there's plenty of snaps last year that you see him do it, but you're right. It needs to become a little bit more of a commonplace thing for him. Look, the bigger question for me is this. Look, Darnell Wright went down. Their all-pro right tackle went down with an elbow injury in practice just the other day. There's no clarity, like real definitive clarity is about what his status is going to be. But you're right. As these injuries keep piling up, and in particular on the offensive line, if you have issues at both offensive tackle positions and the changeover at center, that was a strength for them last year. Their offensive line moved people off the line of scrimmage. You remember that Philadelphia game last year when they went into Philadelphia and just absolutely was demoing that defensive line? That's what their hallmark is. This is a very scary situation for Chicago right now, because as much as we all love them and love the fact that, look, Ben Johnson here, second year with Caleb Williams, Luther Burden, the tight end room, look, there's a lot to be optimistic about. But as we know, injuries are the great equalizer, and that's what could be their downfall this year. I am with you. I do not like this. Look, teams are just going to naturally regress just because they are. I don't believe that. But when you don't have your best players, this could be an issue.
Yeah. I think the reason they regressed, though, another key stat, they forced 33 turnovers.
Yeah.
That bailed them out of a lot of bad defensive drives.
Without a pass rush.
Without a pass rush. That is really hard to replicate.
And they won all these late games. I mean, they won all these games that they were losing at the very end, and Caleb pulled one miracle out of another.
But see, in the end, what ultimately determines whether a team regresses or not is whether or not your team is better. Period. From a personnel standpoint.
Better?
And if people, well, they won't be if people keep getting hurt. If guys like Darnell Wright can't get on the football field and Kobe Bryant, guys, you keep losing people like that, you're going to regress. That's what's going to ultimately do them in.
I love this coach so much. I mean, I love everyone's talking about them regressing, and he's talking about breaking the scoring record. I mean, that's the kind of coach I want on my team. But some of this has been a very rough little last month. Practices today, and that's more interesting, actually, or at least more important for them. Ravens have high expectations in the AFC. They're tied with the Bills as odds-on favorites to play in the Super Bowl. Only the Rams, who of course play in the NFC, have better odds. For more on these teams, our Sal Paolantonio joins us live from their joint practice, and we start with the Ravens. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm terrific.
We're on one winning drive. Yep, and we got Ravens and Commanders joint practices, and these two quarterbacks, I got to tell you, Michael, they are in the crosshairs this year.
And so let's pick it up from there. How has Lamar Jackson, there's so much attention being paid to him. It's a new offense under Declan Doyle. What have we seen so far, and what are we expecting?
Well, it starts with one thing, very beginning, physical. Lamar Jackson, looks like we got the band warming up behind me. I'm sorry about that, Michael. This is Baltimore's marching Ravens. But it's all about Lamar Jackson and his practice habits this offseason. Oh, I'm sorry.
Did someone do that on purpose?
Are they playing Happy Anniversary?
Kristen, we've got the Baltimore marching Ravens here. Is that what it is?
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's Mike Greenberg's 30th anniversary at ESPN. What do you got for him? What do you got?
Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, there we go. Baltimore's marching Ravens. Congratulations to you, Greeny.
Oh, that is
Right on cue.
wow.
Awesome.
That actually fooled me. For one brief, delightful second, I thought that in the instant we went live to Sal, the marching band started. Was I the only one who thought that?
No, I thought the same thing.
I
I was like, "There's something. What's going on?"
I would have said, in 30 years, that's one thing that has never happened before. Okay, Sal, extraordinarily well done. Let's somehow manage to circle back to the actual question. What do we expect from Lamar Jackson in this new Baltimore offense?
Well, you know I like a prop, Michael, so I thought I would bring the marching band to congratulate you on 30 years. Congratulations, my brother.
Thank you.
You know, Lamar Jackson, it's about three things: practice, football, and then making sure that he is physically ready to play the season. You go back to the spring. He was a full participant in the spring practices, and he's been on the field for every single one of the Ravens training camp practices, and his teammates all say that he looks quicker, he looks leaner, he looks faster, and he's definitely acclimating himself to Declan Doyle's offense. And what is Doyle trying to do? And it's all about making sure that Lamar Jackson stays on the field for a full 17-game season. Missed 10 games in the last 5 years, 4 of them last year with numerous different injuries. And of course, Baltimore was bounced out, didn't make the playoffs. John Harbaugh's fired. Jesse Minter is your new head coach, and Declan Doyle wants to make sure he keeps Lamar Jackson out of harm's way. Lamar Jackson has been a pyrotechnic player, 2-time MVP. But what you want to do is make sure that he is creating conflict for the defense without evacuating the pocket. So you put him under center, you do some play action pass with Derrick Henry, and that's the way you create conflict and you get this offense to be much more successful.
So if there's one phrase I've used maybe the most often in my 30 years here, it is scorched earth tour. I love that. And Clarky, I'm going to start with you on this. Yeah. I have been projecting a scorched earth tour for Lamar Jackson. The rest of the league voted him the 69th best player. And whatever it is that happened between him and John Harbaugh at the end there, I don't know what it was, but whatever it is, he has seemed motivated. He was there for all that early stuff. I was interested to hear you pick the Bengals to be as good as you think they are. What are you expecting from Lamar Jackson in this new look Ravens team?
Scorched earth, Greeny.
Yeah.
Scorched earth. And I talked to Declan Doyle, the new offensive coordinator in Baltimore, last week, and I couldn't have been more impressed with him. I think that they're going to be able to do things. He used the phrase unexplored territory. There's unexplored territory for Lamar. They're going through what he can do to be the best in the world at certain things. We know what he can do. The thing you always hear when you talk to guys on the Ravens is there are linebackers who will look to their sideline saying, what do I do? And the coaches will say, I don't know. There's no coaching point to stop when Lamar Jackson is at his best. So I'm expecting him to be back. The reason I'm expecting them to maybe be a playoff team instead of winning the division is I still have questions about the pass rush. And I think that Riddick obviously would be a big part of that, Trey Hendrickson, but I still want to see that until I'm ready to put them in the Super Bowl conversation.
I think the key word here is protection. You go back a year ago, they were sacked at a rate of 8.9%. That was 29th in the league. And if you think about Declan Doyle and where he comes from, Chicago, Detroit, they drafted Owane Vega in the first round. Like, to me, they have to protect Lamar Jackson. And from there, everything can go. The unexplored territory, whatever it may be in terms of big explosive plays, but he has to play in 17 games and be much more protected than a year ago.
Yeah, look, they rebuilt this football team inside out, in particular on the interior of the offensive line. A lot of sacks, fall at the feet of the quarterback. Lamar has to play faster, play quicker, play on time more. The offense and the way it's constructed will help with that. I think, look, on the perimeter, they are much better as far as the wide receivers are concerned right now. Jacoby Lane is going to be a superstar. He just is. And him and Zay Flowers complement one another perfectly. They drafted 2 tight ends, so they're going to be a 12, 13 personnel-centric type of team. And look, Derrick Henry is just timeless. He just is. He is going to be – I do not see any drop-off. I don't see any regression with Derrick Henry this year. I think this football team is loaded. This really comes down to what Sal Powell talked about, which is about Lamar Jackson staying on the football field. If he stays on the football field, injuries are the great equalizer for every team. When we just talk about personnel, whether or not a team is better, this team is better personnel-wise on offense. And Jesse Minter and Anthony Weaver, the defensive coordinator on the defensive side of the football, have you seen some of the stuff they've already unleashed in the preseason? Yeah. They are in regular season form already in terms of the way in which they're going to attack you. This team's going to be better in 2026.
I just started jotting down, as you guys were talking, the names of some of the all-time great quarterbacks, and they all had second chapters in their careers, right? Montana had a second chapter. Brady even did in Tampa Bay. Elway had a second chapter when Mike Shanahan got there. Peyton Manning had a second chapter. So when he went to Denver, there are second chapters. Lamar Jackson is starting, I think, what really is a second chapter for him, and I think it's going to look vastly different, and I think there's expectation it will be very successful.
I think it could be better, and I think sometimes people conflate when you hear 2 tight ends are under center, more conservative. I think the opposite. I think when you're well protected, you can get the ball down the field, and that's why, to me, Zay Flowers, that extension was very meaningful. I think if they could protect Lamar Jackson, he could have an outstanding year.
Let me go back to Sal here, because, again, it's the Ravens and their next-door neighbors, if you will, the Washington Commanders, who had that great run 2 years ago and last year kind of fell off the face of the earth. You talked to their head coach, Dan Quinn, this morning, I know, before his team meeting. Sal, what did he tell you?
Yeah, I called Dan Quinn this morning, Greeny, and I asked him, why is this practice so important for Jaden Daniels, who only had 7 starts last year? And you look at the injuries that he had, right knee, right ham, left elbow. It was a very difficult year for the Commanders because Jaden Daniels couldn't stay on the field. So they talked at the beginning of January, and they laid out the roadmap to September. And the first thing on that roadmap was get stronger, get bigger. And that's what Jaden Daniels did. And then you bring in David Blau, new offensive coordinator, another guy with a new offensive coordinator, another guy who wants to put Jaden Daniels more under center and huddle up more. And Dan Quinn said to me, this practice will be really important because of the exotic looks that Jesse Minter will give. Not only the pressure, but the illusion of pressure that Jaden Daniels has to react to. And as you guys were just discussing, Minter has already started to roll that out in the preseason. But, he hasn't been on the field in the preseason. He will be here in this, obviously, front and center in these practices. Can't hit the quarterback, so it's a lot different when you can't hit the quarterback. But at least they can get on film. Okay, this is what I see pre-snap. What play did I get out of to get into a better play pre-snap, and then post-snap? What play did I get out of in order to make myself successful? Because that is the hallmark of Jesse Minter, Mike McDonald defense. They were together in Michigan, and if you study what Mike McDonald did in Seattle, it's all about that Swiss Army knife at the safety position, and that's what Minter has with Kyle Hamilton. Watch Kyle Hamilton in this defense and how he lines up today. I've watched practice, training camp for 35 years. I don't watch practice. I watch players and I watch plays. And my eyes will be on Jaden Daniels when he goes to the line of scrimmage and he looks for Kyle Hamilton in this defense.
All right, Sal, strike up the band. Thank you very much. Outstanding work today. And we will check in with you again soon. Sal.